Hey, good afternoon, YouTube. Got another little project. Finally, some parts came from the interweb. We got the good old Borscht, Ukrainian, well, maybe it's German, chop saw here. I love this thing. Glide saw works great. You can see it's been used a little bit. So I'm working on thinking about maybe changing the dust collection and fixing up my dust port switches and everything, but that's another day. What I want to do is improve my sight lines. So I know that some guys have bought a sewing machine light and attached it to here with a power supply, yada yada, here and then there, and then rewired it and cracked it open. And I went, well, great and all, but what am I going to do with that? So I went a different route. I looked up the COB, a circuit on board, or I don't know what the heck, that's what I think they're called. They're COBs. Basically, it's a bunch of LED lights that are all impregnated, glued, soldered onto a circuit board. And it comes up to a single set of leads. I might change those out, I don't know yet. And it's got some 3M, actually M33. Nice misspelling on that one. Sticky double-sided tape on the back. This stuff, I know, does not work very well, and when it gets warm, it lets go. So, how am I going to do this? Well, first thing is going to be taking this blade guard off and then messing with this up here, a perfect place to mount a little bit of a light to give a shadow line along the blade. I did a quick test by just holding it there with my hand. Seems to work pretty good. So I'm gonna try and figure out a better angle for this and get things worked out. And I'll show you how I kind of came up with my idea of giving a shadow line on the Bosch saw. Yeah, it's not made of beets either. So Rex had a great idea. We're going to use this little cob, but the issue is that if I just attach it like this, it shines right in my eyes. So I need to tilt it down a little bit. So I got on the belt sander and a chunk of, I think it's HDPE, high density polyethylene, or it could even be UHMW, ultra high molecular weight stuff. Can't remember. It left a little bit of a, I don't know, sort of a marking on there. Anyways, when I do it this way, it basically is almost a perfect size. Don't have to cut anything. It's just a little bit smaller, but that's okay. And it gives me the perfect angle, which shines right nicely down there. So I'm going to use some of the real 3M. This is the good stuff. Picked this up at my local Home Depot. This is your, sorry, not 3M, it's Scotch brand. Oh, made by 3M. Never mind. This is the super heavy duty 10, 20, 30 pound. I don't know. It's it ain't gonna come off, I hope. So I'm gonna wipe everything down with some really good rubbing alcohol, the 99% stuff. Give this a good cleaning, give it the best chance. There's a little bit of a ridge there. I might just kind of give that a little, you know, maybe a little scrape with the razor blade. I'll see if it'll stick. So I don't know if you guys can see here, but you see how there's that little ring around everything here? And some little scrape marks in the middle. Ow, sharp blade. Basically there was a bit of a crown there. So I just took the edge of a razor blade, you know, utility knife, box cutter, whatever, and just held it at a 45 or a 90-degree angle and just scraped and scraped until I got it flat. And it's not perfect, but there was definitely enough of a crown there. It took a fair bit of scraping to get that done. I might do a little bit more, but this is gonna have to be as flat as possible. So just one thing to keep in mind. Don't you hate it when you do a whole bunch of good work and machine something kind of nice and snazzy, figure out some reliefs so things will work, and then you realize you chose the wrong material? This worked perfectly. It's great. It took very little force for me to pull it off of the 3M tape. Ah, it's in the bucket. Okay, so I went this way. I got a little piece of angle iron that I had kicking around, drilled 2 little screws, made a little bracket, and this is mechanically attached. So I know it's going to stay there. This cap piece is hollow. So I just threaded these 2 screws into here. If there's ever any concern, I could always put a little piece of wood or something behind here and screw into that, but I don't think it's going to take a lot of force. It's just going to be sitting there. So I'm reasonably confident that this part will stay together. Now I'm going to grab the other piece and see if it'll stick on that. Get some acetone. I'm going to clean this off really good with acetone. Hopefully that'll work better, and we'll give it a shot. Ooh, look at that. Just nicely fits on either side. As I go down, it is good. And there's my shadow line. So, you know what? For $2 and a power brick that I had sitting around here, which is usually about $5 or $6, I guess, for enough to drive this thing, it works. Good enough. If I really get twitchy on it, and I might look at taking this and angling it just a little bit that way, just a little bit of a bend in that 90 degrees, and give it a little less of an angle. Then it'll shine a little bit more directly on the wood. Hopefully maybe a little bit better line. But again, this is easy. All I do is I pull off my guard, undo 2 screws, and I can do whatever I want to it. I can peel this thing off or fix it up. I'm going to do a better connector here. I'll probably use RC servo wire and connector, or something better than this. Or maybe I'll solder a different wire onto this thing, leave that connector, and then make something else further down the line. But working good. I think it's easier than trying to hack apart some other of those like sewing lights. Have a look at them. You just got to make sure they're the right size. I have no clue what they are. I'll do a measurement right away for you guys. Okay, here's all the other ones I get to play with. So they all work. Man, they use like this. Oh, sorry, can't focus. The thinnest wire possible. Anyways, these are 35 millimeters this way and 45 millimeters that way. If you can find a COB Cobb LED with those dimensions, it'll work. I'd give you a link to the guy I got these from, but it took 3 months. And I know the COVID thing and all the customs and that type of thing. But when I asked him questions, I never got an answer back. So I can't recommend them. And it's got the M3 tape, not the 3M tape. So otherwise, hey, I'm happy. I'm going to tweak it, refine it, play with it. But here's the basics. Go have some fun. Have a great weekend, everybody. I just can't leave well enough alone, so I do want to put a little bit of angle on that. So how do I get a little piece of aluminum angle iron angled? Well, what I'm doing is I have an old putty knife in the vise to create a little bit of a sharp edge. I thought about, you can probably see there really carefully, I thought about just squishing it in the vise, and it started bending in places I didn't want to. So what I'm doing is I'm using the scraper as a pinch point, and I'm just putting a little bit of downward pressure and hitting it with my teeny weeny ball peen hammer. Little by little, back and forth. I'll see if this works. I don't know. Never tried this before. Oh, what do you know? It worked. The aluminum isn't cracked. It worked good. You can see all little peening marks. I know the aluminum doesn't like to be cold worked, or it should be annealed or something like that, but this isn't under stress. Just some gentle taps. And you can see where it started to bend a little bit up there, but hey, if you need to bend aluminum angle iron, it's thin, a little piece of metal right at the juncture, a little bit of down pressure, a little bit of peening, good to go. Let me get it attached, see how it works. Update number 2.0. So here's the angled one in, and it's angled such that it really shines more where the cut line is going to be rather than sort of straight back across the blade. And I don't know. To me, that shadow line looks even more sharper. It's sharper. I also went ahead and took off those itsy bitsy teeny weeny little wires there. I soldered on some, I don't know, some, what is this, 16, 18 gauge wire. I'm going to run it all up using some of the black tape here, just to run it all along the back of the saw. I'll have to clean up all this dust so it sticks better. I think that's going to be better, and I'll loop it back somewhere in there. Get this wire out of the way, allow it to move and bend when I do turn the saw. So let me update that, and we'll get a final, hopefully, because maybe someday I'll stop tinkering with stuff. All right, final product. This is the way it's going to be for a little while. I'll run it a little bit, see what happens, and go from there. So I got it mechanically done here. I can attest that whatever pad or glue or whatever's on this is pretty darn strong. On the other one, I tried to pull it off. It is not coming off. So we'll keep an eye on that. I guess worst case scenario, I could zip tie around it. I'll lose a little bit of light, but I can deal with that as long as it's stronger. So that's good. I got the two wires done up. I have to tack them down on there, but that'll work. It's run up here, utilizing some of that real 3M tape. It runs all the way down the back. I made little pigtails here and here, so you can kind of see how they loop up. So that as it moves, it doesn't pinch the wire or cause issues that way. I doubled over the tape here. I found that works really well to hold it down, especially in areas where it's going to move. I have another one there, and then it loops up with a piece of double tape and out to my temporary switch, which, you know, is, if it works, it might not be temporary. So anyways, it works really well. You can see as it slides back and forth, it doesn't pull. This has lots of guidance to it, and more importantly, have a nice shadow line. And it seems to work good for everything. I'm just going to plug in the saw, give it a try off camera, because when it explodes and kills me, I don't want you seeing that. Otherwise, a cob, some aluminum angle iron peened to a slight degree, some extra wire. It can all be done. I'd say total, if this thing was $2, piece of angle iron about 10 cents, the wire maybe $1. I'm thinking, you know, I had the transformers and stuff already sitting here. Dang, I don't know, maybe $5, 10 if you include the transformer. And as a side note, when I put bigger wires on it, this seems a bit brighter. Maybe it's just my imagination, but I think it's a little brighter down here. Now maybe I'm going to get a whole bunch of those all lined up on the top of the chop saw cabinet and get it going. And someday I got to make something better than just some cardboard. Whatever, it's working for now. Signing off. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. Enjoy.